we can determine how to safely get back to doing business, how we can safely get back to protecting jobs and saving jobs, and how we can safely get back to living in a COVID pandemic. And we know that life won't be normal. We know that when we go to a restaurant or go to a club or a pub, it won't be normal. But certainly what the task force has determined through consulting with the industry is how determined everybody else is to ramp up their activity and provide good customer service in a COVID-safe environment. So today I'm pleased to announce that on behalf of the New South Wales Government, New South Wales will be taking an important, critical and big step from the 1st of June, where pubs, cafes, restaurants and the like will be able to have up to 50 patrons. However, this will be with very strict guidelines in place. It has to be in adherence to the 4 square metre rule. So some venues are small in space. They will only be able to have as many customers as is allowed in that space according to the 4 square metre rule, and nobody will be able to take bookings of more than 10 people, a maximum booking of 10 people, and also nobody will be able to be standing up in these venues. You have to be seated at a table, even if it's a pub. You have to be seated at the table, you have to be served at the table, there is no mingling, no standing around. There are strict guidelines in place which will ensure that we can do this safely. The task force reported to me that through consultation with the industry, there was too much confusion in having a further step in the approach. Many venues differ from across the state, and even venues in regional areas, which the Deputy Premier will discuss, would have been hampered if we took that extra step in between. But what we're doing between now and the 1st of June is to make sure that the rules, regulations and guidelines are in place so that everybody adheres to them strictly, very strictly. I want to thank the Deputy Premier for his contribution, especially in relation to regional New South Wales, and he will make some comments. The Treasurer, who obviously has the most cause for ensuring we get those jobs back. Losing 221,000 jobs in April was a disaster. We don't want to see that continue. We want to stem the tide, but also we want to do it safely. Now, Minister Dominello, as the Minister for Customer Service, is in charge of regulation across the state. He will be the one that will be ensuring that the industry has very clear guidelines on what they need to do, how strict we are and how safe we need to be during the course of the pandemic. And of course, Minister Hazzard, whose advice through the Chief Medical Officer we've relied upon to make sure this is a safe way of getting back to business and a safe way of ensuring that those industries have a chance of surviving. We already know that for many of these businesses, they won't be coming back at all. But for those who are viable, for those who've managed to hang on, we're ensuring that we can work together to provide that safe environment. Things will be very different. Imagine even something simple as having joint cutlery on a table won't be able to exist anymore. A simple buffet won't exist anymore. A communal food bowl won't exist anymore. There will be very strict guidelines to ensure this happens safely, because the last thing we want to do is have to shut businesses down because they haven't complied, and the last thing we want to do is go backwards. Now, we know this is a big step, but the regulations and rules we'll be putting in place will be very strict to make sure safety is paramount. But it is a significant time in the history of our state, and we have a no regrets policy, firstly in keeping the community safe, making sure everything we do is to protect lives and save lives, but also in relation to making sure people aren't long-term unemployed and that we can bounce back from the devastating economic shock. I'll now ask the Deputy Premier to make some comments, then the Treasurer, and then the Minister Dominello, and then Minister Hazzard.
Well, thank you, Premier. Well, we've opened up the regions and now it's our happy hour. It's time to wine and dine. We want to see people that visit the region supporting our hotels, our pubs, our clubs, our restaurants and cafes. Today's announcement will allow regional businesses and economies to embrace, with the opening up of travel, the opportunity for businesses right into the June long weekend to fill their registers. We know this industry is so important. Right across the state, more than 250,000 people are employed in the hospitality sector, and we know with the losses that we've seen in employment, this is a sector that could quickly put jobs back into the economy, and that is why the New South Wales Government, along with the Task Force, along with the Treasurer, the Minister for Better Regulation, the Minister for Health and of course the Premier's support, we are taking a mighty big step to make sure that our venues can open to embrace the visitors that come to regional and rural New South Wales. But as the Premier has stated, This is not just a free-for-all. There will be regulations and guidelines in place for every cafe, restaurant, pub, bar across the state. We want people to do the right thing. We need people to stay safe. We don't want to see the transmission of COVID in the regions. And that's why our regulations and our guidelines that will be released next week will remain strong. So this today is an exciting announcement. It means New South Wales is leading the nation when it comes to the hospitality sector. We're backing in the employees, we're backing in the businesses, and we're backing in the regions.
This is about keeping people in jobs and businesses in business. We want to breathe life into the New South Wales economy, life into our communities, but in the safest way possible. We want to open up the New South Wales economy swiftly, but importantly, safely. We know that the catering industry, food and beverage provides an enormous part of the New South Wales economy. 280,000 employees, around 7% of the businesses nationally that have applied for the JobKeeper program are in this industry. And we know that we need to give them as much support as possible. So when the JobKeeper program concludes, that as many of those employees are able to transfer from the JobKeeper program into paid wages. We want to add soul to Sydney, add soul to our state, and make sure the New South Wales economy powers ahead. We know that it's going to be a challenging time. We know businesses are struggling, but importantly, working together right across the government. I want to particularly thank the Premier for her leadership. I want to thank the members of the task force in John Barilaro, the Deputy Premier, and the regulation side that Victor Dominello has played over the course of this in getting this package right. This announcement today leads the nation, and at the same time it is done in a way that will keep people safe. We want to make sure that restaurants, cafes, bars employ as many people, that as many businesses over the course of this period of time remain open. 90% of businesses in this industry are small businesses. Small businesses are the lifeblood of the New South Wales economy. They employ men and women, many families, to help them put food on the table and provide for their families, and that's what this is all about. I also want to thank the Health Minister, who has worked very constructively with us over the course of this period of time. We have negotiated what I believe is a good outcome, a way that opens up our economy, that puts people in work, but does so in a way that is safe.
Well, today's announcement is about ramping up so that hopefully we can then open up all in a safe environment. We are working with industry to make sure that we have a COVID-safe environment, whether it's cafes, restaurants, pubs and clubs. We know that we're in the hammer and wrestle or the hammer and dance phase of this pandemic. That means we have to dance with the virus, but if it pops its head up, we have to hit it, and hit it hard, fast and local. And we will put regulations in place so that if there is an outbreak, we go hard, fast and local, because we have to make sure that we protect the health of the people and also the health of the economy. Today is an important announcement. I would like to thank again the leadership of the Premier and the Deputy Premier and my task force colleagues, in particular the Treasurer and the Ms. Vell.
New South Wales has always led the way, and again New South Wales is leading the way. We will not let this virus beat New South Wales. But as we do open up, and as we do make sure that our economy will lead again this nation, I also want to make sure that all of us understand that this virus is still out there, it's still lurking, and we still have to be careful. The way that we're moving forward is in a cautious and sensible way. It has the maximum of 50 people in a cafe or restaurant, but a lesser number if the cafe or restaurant, defined by the 4 square metre rule, requires a lesser number. So, for example, if you had a 80 square metres, you would have 20 people. That's the basic lesson. Just do the basic maths. And of course, my advice to all of us is, as I've said many times, as we open up our economy, we don't need to open ourselves up to the virus. By just being cautious, we won't. It is not a high jumper, it is not a long jumper. Just maintain the social distance of the 1.5 metres, and also hygiene, washing your hands like you've never done before. If you arrive at the restaurant, the first thing you should do is use hand hygienic cleaner or go and wash your hands. Then sit down, enjoy your dinner, and do what New South Wales residents have always done. Have a great night out with your friends, but be cautious, be careful, and this will work to the advantage of the entire community, but also keep you safe. Can I say that the Chief Health Officer, and of course myself as the Health Minister, will be working with industry over the next week just to make sure that we have a standard checklist, a checklist that works for each and every industry. As we do these things, each and every part of the restaurant and cafe business, but also pubs and clubs, we'll be working with each of those sectors and making sure that they have what is necessary to keep people safe. I can assure all the citizens of New South Wales, it's time to get out, time to enjoy yourself, but also it's time to be very, very cautious because the virus is still amongst us. Questions?
Well, I would say thousands, and in discussions with industry, and where we looked at a range of options in terms of staging the increase, and it was very clear to us that rather than going to 20, but by going to 50, there'd be thousands more people in work. There are a lot of people, as I said, 7% nationally who are on the JobKeeper program are in the hospitality industry. So many of those people are staying at home at the moment because the restaurants, the cafes, and many bars remain closed. This going to 50 will give the opportunity for the majority of restaurants, the majority of bars across our state to open, and that's going to put a lot of people back into work. And that's important that we do that now. We can't wait until September. We need to have as much of the economy going right now so that when the JobKeeper program runs out, at that period of time we can transition safely into paid wages. So it's a race against the clock, but importantly it needs to be done in a safe way. And I believe that working with the Chief Medical Officer, working with the Health Minister and particularly with industry, that they're up for this. We have worked very, very closely with them. All the health measures that the Health Minister has just spoken about, they are acutely aware of and across. And it's really important over the course of June that we do this well, do it right, and that will ensure we'll have more people in work. This is a dual challenge, health challenge and an economic challenge, and we need to make sure by the end of this, as many businesses are in business, as many people are in jobs.
Look, we're taking this step by step, as we have in this entire and challenging 5 months. The Chief Health Officer and I are taking a very cautious approach, but we're also very keen to work with industry and make sure that we can just ensure that all of those checks and balances are in place. There's no question that the discussions we've already had, as the Treasurer and as the Premier has said, indicate that industry broadly is very keen to listen to how to keep people safe, and of course it's individual responsibility as well. It's a mixture of when we go out, as we are here today, people stand at a social distance that 5 months ago people wouldn't have even thought about. So we're quite confident that we can do it, but we want to do it gradually. And we're working on a range of other issues at the moment, but it's not appropriate at this point to go leaping too far ahead. No, and in fact, can I say that one of the other issues will be, and we're working through these issues with the restaurateurs, the cafe owners, the pubs and clubs, is that if you go into one of these, in the same way as, I'm not here at the moment because of you, but in the normal events there should be only 10 people outside at the moment. When you leave your house, do it safely. The message remains, when you leave your house, do it safely. You no longer have that constraint that you shouldn't leave your house except for 16 rules, but you do have a very strong constraint, that is no groups bigger than 10, and that will apply inside and outside. So when you go to a cafe or a restaurant, you certainly shouldn't be expecting to have a large group there. It will be in select groups. The key issue here, from the Chief Health Officers and mine, is to make sure that there's a capacity for, if the virus is found to be in somebody, that we have a way of checking and tracking and tracing who else might have got it. That's the most important part. Why is New South Wales doing so well right now? We're doing so well because we have had a very big focus on tracing people's connections. That still underpins everything we do. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, I know just going to my local cafe, there's a piece of paper there and they ask you to write your name and your phone number. That's the sort of thing that we'll be doing. Each one of us are effectively soldiers in a war against this virus, and each one of us have to be prepared to live our lives in a little bit different way as we get our old lives back. And certainly, in the same way, when you ring up a restaurant, you'd normally give your name and phone number anyway to make the booking. It would, in this case, more likely be, though, we're working this through with the industry, that each person who goes in would also give their name and phone number. And that will certainly help us, I think, keep all of us safe. Yeah, sorry. I think it's a case of let's keep our footsteps. As Health Minister and on behalf of the Chief Health Officer, I would say to you, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's open up the economy in the way that we've announced today, but let us work through those issues. I think the community have done an amazing job in the last 5 months. You know, we've gone from the 27th of March was 212 cases identified in New South Wales. To the last few days, it's been around about the 2 down to a 0. So let's just make sure the community know that this is a partnership. This is a really strong partnership between our government, between the Liberal National Government here in New South Wales and the community. We have to take it in small steps. So let's not jump ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to work with industries. We've had a number of meetings with them already. That will continue to fine-tune the implementation of this, but it is absolutely critical, as the Health Minister has said, that we find out, get the details about the patronage, because we need to know, we need to be better than a COVID-safe app. If there is an outbreak, we need to know, and we need to contact those people in the event that there is. But the point is, we've got to use this period in June to ramp up